Hi, Cully here. I'm here with Fiann O Nuailainn. This is our third show. We've already had Ros Crowley and Orla Walsh in these sort of, I don't know what, we don't have a name for them. We need a name for them. These interviews, these Facebook Live interviews. I think some people are on Instagram this time, so we're progressing from last time. And if you want to go back and look at those previous ones, I'm sure you can find them on our website somewhere. And if you can't, try and find someone under the age of 20 and they'll probably be able to find them for you. So I don't know if you guys know Fiann O Nuailainn. He's here as a medicinal botanist, but you guys might know him better as the holistic gardener. I know I do. And an expert. I kind of think he's probably the best educated vegetarian in the world, is what I reckon he is. So we've had Fiann up for Fiann's article that you wrote probably about 2 weeks ago now at this stage, or went live about 2 weeks ago, whatever. So we've had questions coming in, which we're going to start going through, and also if you want to ask any questions, if we have time, we'll ask a few questions as well from the, we'll definitely find time for one or two anyway, from your questions, but if something new comes in, we're really interested in hearing them. We are actually going to have a giveaway, so actually, Fiann, if you can pick a number between 1 and 13 to start with. 7. Including 1 or 13, 7. So 7 is, I hope I have the name now, Rosie Whelan. So first giveaway is already to Rosie Whelan, who we've got a question from. Actually, I might even start with that one. It's about organics. And we're going to give another one away as well later on in the show. It's probably going for about half an hour. And to one of the people who have left a comment, we'll just pick it randomly. And if we can think of another reason to give another thing away, this is the Holistic Gardener. So we'll give a copy of this away as well, if that. So a bit of fun, a good reason to keep watching. Just check now, is there anything else just to go through before we get started? I believe we're head to head with Theresa May. So if anybody, we'll only mention this word once, right? So this is a Brexit-free zone. Anyone bored of it, tell your friends to come over and watch this, much more exciting, and hasn't been going on for the last 2 years. Maybe not quite such an effect on our lives, but anyway, we'll see how that goes. And also just to say thanks a million for all your questions. They've been particularly interesting. I think that's no thanks to Fiann, who's fascinating. And Fiann, you kind of cover, I love the area you cover because it's this sort of medicinal, kind of holistic, obviously, just like at how, I suppose, herbs where a lot of our medicine comes from, and you've got such a great knowledge of it. And so, you guys, that whole area, he can answer any question, he tells me. So let's see how it goes. So our Rosie Whelan, who was our prize winner for the Fitbit, I'm going to ask her question first. This is about organic. Okay. She asks, if you can't afford to buy all organic food, what food is most important to go organic with?
Okay, I guess there's 2 parts to that, Rosie. The first part is whatever you eat the most of, because again, if you're eating whatever your 5 a day is that you would get in, grow that. There's no point in growing globe artichokes if you only eat them twice a year. But in terms of prioritizing, if I can come at it from a different angle, which would be the foods that are affected the most by pesticides and fungicides tend to be the fruits. Yeah. So I would start off growing my own fruit organically. Now, whether that's apples or blackberries or gooseberries or strawberries, they're the ones that tend to have a little bit of a health problem when they come in overly sprayed. And
what is the reason they're sprayed? Because they're sweeter as well? Is there anything?
They tend to suffer more from fungal infections, where most of your kind of brassicas and your vegetables are equipped with a phytochemistry to be able to waver them off, but the fruits not so much. And it's also, they come in, not everything is Irish grown, it comes in from different places as well.
Different times of the year.
So they're particularly treated to be able to produce out of season.
So the most difficult ones to grow organically, is that what you're saying as well? The hardest ones to grow already. But I actually love your first recommendation, particularly, we talked about this earlier, is the things you eat the most of really does makes a lot of sense, and eat plenty of them. So another question there, thank you very much. Victoria O'Mahony's question is, as a vegetarian, what vegetables are best to keep up her vitamin intake?
Okay, all vegetables are very nutrient dense. Okay. So like I'm a vegetarian since I'm 14 and I'm hardly skinny and sickly, you know. So, you know, so all...
He's massive underneath the cover here. You can see, like, he's like skinny on top of it.
So all vegetables really have enough nutrients within them.
Yeah.
What's really, really interesting is that pre the famine, the Irish were known as the oxen of Europe. And we were known as the oxen of Europe because we were the strongest and the fittest.
Okay.
And that was when we persisted on potatoes, because potatoes have all of the 13 essential nutrients that we require for all of our physical functions. But it was also because we took it with butter and buttermilk, which had all of the amino acids. Right. So that was a complete meal in itself that made us the healthiest race on the planet. Right? So coming from that from the other angle, which is, well, what do you miss out on if you become vegetarian? Yeah. So the big one would be B12. Yeah. And B12 just is not available in the plant kingdom, or at least they say it's not available. Yeah. If there's B3 is a bacteria. Yeah. If there's a lot of
B12 or B3?
B12. Sorry,
yeah,
B12.
Okay,
If there's a lot of B12 bacteria in a particular soil where mushrooms are grown or certain veg, then you may get it in your diet. Really what you're looking to do is to supplement with that, because that's really key to preventing you from getting anemia and lots of blood conditions that can be associated with long-term vegetarian and veganism. Yeah. The other thing then would be iron. Yeah. Okay, so we know spinach and cabbage and all that have plenty of iron thanks to Popeye cartoons and that sort of stuff, right? But the issue is it's a different type of iron than is available through animal iron. Yeah. Animal iron is more readily absorbed into the bloodstream and builds up hemoglobin really quick. Veg iron is much slower process. How you can speed that up is if you take it with vitamin C. Now we often don't mix vitamin C type, like you wouldn't necessarily have kale and cranberry sauce, for example. So you wouldn't be getting your vitamin C content.
Kale and oranges.
With your iron. But if you can make something like a lemon juice based drizzle, a vinaigrette or something like that, then you're getting your citrus vitamin C in, and that's extracting the iron from it.
And you want to be having that at the same time, like the same bite, literally.
In your meal, even if you're doing it as a salad, there's a way of drizzling it over. Yeah, or again,
cook your kale less. It's nearly like treat it nearly like a lettuce or whatever.
Or have a glass of orange juice with your meal. You know, that's another way to do it. But then the other thing then is omegas. So depending, like my type of vegetarian, I don't eat fish and I don't eat egg. Yeah. So I wouldn't get a lot of omegas from, so in terms of plant sources, really what you're looking at is you're looking to go to seeds and nuts, which are packed full of all of the omegas. Right. But often vegetarians can overlook nuts and seeds. They include them in a small bit, maybe if they're baking some sort of bread or whatever, but they need to be integral to your body, because you need to get the vitamin E in as well, and that's in nuts and seeds too.
And if those nuts and seeds are, like, I don't know if you'd even consider them cooked, but you hear, I mean, the only time, like, you obviously nut burgers was where I'm going with this and that sort of stuff. Does it work in that sort of nut burger?
Yeah,
like you don't.
The omegas are still kept intact.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Now, cooking can alter vitamin C, can alter B vitamins and that sort of stuff, but your omegas are cooked or raw.
We're actually going to have a question later on about cooking vegetables as well, so we can get back to that a little bit. But I think that's interesting. So actually, the nutrients are the vitamin, and just the question here is about vitamins. You mentioned nutrients and vitamins, same...
Kind of the same things, but within nutrients we would also include minerals, so like selenium and zinc and that sort of stuff, which is fundamental to how we drive our immune system. Yeah. So if somebody's on vegetarian and they feel like 2 years in or 3 years in, they're getting a lot more colds and flus than they normally would. Yep. They're probably deficient in zinc and selenium. And again, they're in the nuts and seeds. Yeah.
I think we need a map here. I think this often feels to me really complicated, but after chatting to Fiann, I was thinking it probably isn't that complicated if you could get a little map that just really showed you where everything came from in a very clear,
very simple, forward way. Yeah.
And the B12 thing, which is obviously very serious with vegans, but with vegetarians, I mean, for the vegetarian, let's forget about vegans for the moment. For the vegetarian, mushrooms, is there any other way other than supplements?
Other than well, you see, there are a couple of phytochemicals that mimic B12. Okay. And they tend to be in fermented foods.
Okay, fermented food, another really interesting area. Yeah.
So if you can top up fermented foods are essential for, protecting your gut flora, and your gut flora drives your immune system. Yeah. But your gut flora also, as well as how you release whatever endorphins that you need to release. Your gut flora are involved in the same as circadian rhythms in day, nighttime, sleep, and so that's an area we neglect an awful lot here. You know,
we won't even touch it. That's the circadian rhythms and all that stuff. We keep that till the end when the start things. That's a whole other area. You're gonna have to go online to check what Fiann's written about. I don't quite know how to say this word. Aisha Ali, I think it is, wants to know if cooking and freezing vegetables, I think this is a really interesting question about freezing, take away from the nutritional value. She cooks and purees vegetables and turns them into frozen cubes to be added to meals. Hidden vegetables, I suppose she's probably trying to feed either her husband or her kids. She is wondering if it was all a waste, if the nutritional value is lost. Okay. That's the cooking question again. That's the heating vegetable,
So there, foods in their raw state will contain a lot of vitamin C, a lot of B vitamins, and a lot of different nutrients. When they're cooked, it depends on the cooking mechanism, but any form of heat degrades B vitamins and vitamin D.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're deficient in one of those, maybe looking to include some of the same veg in a raw state will be more helpful. But you're not depleting vast amounts. So, I mean, you still need to cook your food, you still need to make it palatable for the kids to eat and yourself to eat. If you cook it in boiling water, anything that's a water-soluble vitamin goes into the water, which is why soup is brilliant, because it contains it all, right? Well, that's it, you know, it's integral, nothing is lost, it's all captured in. Where if you cook up your veg and then you strain it away, what you're flushing away is the B vitamins, vitamin D, and other water soluble. So if you steam your vegetables before you puree them, that might be a little bit more healthier to do it. The freezing will not degrade it at all. And even in terms of, like, for cooking, if you tomatoes, I often talk about tomatoes because tomatoes have lycopene within them, and that keeps the tomato skin from blistering. So when we eat it, it causes us to produce more melanin in our skin, which helps us tan rather than burn. But the best way to intensify the lycopene content of the tomato is to cook it, down into
going to Italy and eating loads of pizzas. That's the answer to getting it.
Literally. So that's an example of where cooking actually benefits the veg. So it varies, but she's doing all of the right stuff. She's getting it in there. She's getting more than her 5 a day in by doing it that way.
And actually, I forgot to mention at the beginning, one of the reasons that we've started doing these shows, as I'm calling them, is because we launched our broths, and really we were pushing kind of the health of the broth. So we have a miso is fantastic. And it's such a nice thing to drink actually out of a cup. I started drinking out of the cup now. We have a beef which is made with a 12-hour bone broth, which, I mean, everyone's talking about bone broths, or the chicken again, bone broth, and a vegetable as one as well. The miso is with Irish mushrooms and Irish miso, which is Irish seaweed, which is kind of quite fun.
Yeah.
So that's the reason we started doing these, when we were trying to look at ways, and it's great to hear you saying how the vegetables, when you cook them in a soup or something like that, it keeps the vitamins, minerals.
It keeps it intact. There's nothing lost.
The water soluble ones, particularly, I suppose. Maggie Healing P-U-G-H, asks, what are the most nutritional vegetables for keeping your immune system up in winter? She'd love some ideas for soups on cold winter nights. You're not allowed to say Cully and Sully soups, is that right? You're allowed to say something different. That's what I meant to say.
well, I mean, the ingredients will be there. You just mentioned mushrooms. So mushrooms, particularly dark-skinned mushrooms, contain the same type of vitamin D that we synthesize on our skin when we get exposed to sunshine. It's vitamin D3, right?
Okay.
So vitamin D3 is implicitly involved in the immune system, in how NK, which are the natural killer cells, actually get activated and go target infections and bacteria. So mushrooms in the diet is a great thing, and they're seasonal. They're from autumn right the way through to this time of the year. That, based on kind of ancestral kind of race memory of going and foraging for foods, the foods that are in that particular season will have an impact on the conditions of that season. So tomatoes are there in summer to protect us from some sunburn. Mushrooms are there to protect us from depression, inflammatory diseases, and immune system.
It's amazing, isn't it?
But also brassicas.
Yeah.
So brassicas have a lot of this thing called sulforaphanes. And sulforaphanes, it's basically sulfur, but sulfur is a driver of our immune system too.
Yeah.
But it's also in leeks. So again, you see anything that's seasonally available in wintertime is what will drive your immune system in wintertime. And when we get to summertime, all of the vitamin C, because vitamin C is a big driver of the immune system, all the vitamin C is there in the fruits and the early vegetables and the leafy vegetables. So seasonal eating is fundamental.
Seasonal local eating, like, you know, you're coming back to the same thing we always hear over and over again. And the honey obviously being the story that I suppose that we know best is like, you know, eat local honey throughout the winter and it'll protect you or from allergens, I suppose, in the summertime as well.
That's what it is. It's you know, I'm not dismissing Manuka honey because it has lots of medicinal properties in it, but it's not that good for your hay fever. Because that bee has visited all of the flowers in New Zealand, not all of the flowers in your neighbourhood. So your local honey is immunology. It has small grains of pollen contained within it that help you build up your armory to be able to deal with the histamine attack that's going to come later on. So small doses of honey throughout the year can ward off hay fever.
Extraordinary kind of stuff, and stuff I suppose we hear so often. Question 4 here. Sarah Arrowsmith's son is 8 years old and struggles to sleep. Is there any foods that can help him, maybe with certain vitamins in it? So trying to sleep.
Yeah, well, okay. So if I can mention circadian rhythms.
Oh no, I love it! No, actually, Fiann, one of the reasons I got to know Fiann best is because I was talking about our office and I wanted to grow herbs in our office. And which is really hard to do. Green fly just attack them in that stagnant air. Even though it's really warm, I was amazed the amount of things we've killed in our offices. But I was chatting to him about, like, you know, I suppose the good vibe in the office. Yeah. And this is where I first came across circadian office. So I love it.
So circadian rhythms are basically, we evolved on Earth in connection with the cycles and natural patterns of the earth, which is seasonal eating would be a prime example. Yeah. But circadian rhythms is when you wake up in daytime, the blue wavelengths that's there in daylight pings off the pituitary glands and it gives you a flood of serotonin, which is the happy hormone and the wake up hormone. Yeah. When we get to dusk, what happens is we stop making the serotonin and we start producing melatonin. And melatonin is the sleep hormone. So anybody who's on their tablet or their phone late at night, they're pinging their brain with blue wavelengths. That's why they can't sleep. They're getting a hit of serotonin. Where if they go into a cold, dark room, they will sleep because the serotonin degrades and the melatonin comes up. But some foods naturally contain melatonin. Yeah. So bananas, barley, and that can be barley water. Kids love barley water.
I've never given that to my kids yet.
Yeah, rice, bananas, tomatoes, and cherries.
And cherries.
Sweet cherries particularly have an awful lot of melatonin. So lots of people who would have like chronic insomnia, they find having bananas, like there's an old Irish thing of having milk at night, and it's because warm milk has a quality of tryptophan, and tryptophan the body uses to either make serotonin or to make melatonin. So a warm milk or a hot cocoa at night.
Yeah, I was saying that to you earlier when I was reading that question first. I was going like hot chocolate. I'm always amazed that it helps you sleep. Like,
and it's the tryptophan in it that it's a natural sedative. It sets you off. Yeah. But bananas, even banana milk and that sort of stuff, that's really good for kids. You know.
So there you have it. Bananas and hot chocolate. Perfect dessert.
Yeah. Kids will want to stay up.
Exactly. So let's move off that sort of thing, and this is to running marathons now, where's where we're going to. So this is Pauline Riley. She's doing her first marathon next year, and she'd like some advice on what she shouldn't be eating pre and after the run.
Okay. Well,
the marathon, not the run. That's not a run.
Well, stuff has changed because it used to be carbo load pre-workout,
right?
To get all the carbs into you, and then post for recovery was go protein heavy.
Yeah.
And now what they're saying is that nutritional scientists all around the world are saying that okay, yes, carbo load to get all of the energy because you need glucose to fuel your energy, but you need a portion of protein to prevent muscle damage at the beginning as opposed to trying to build it up afterwards.
Okay.
Right. So post-workout, any healthy balanced meal, generally 2 to 3 hours before you're going to take
That's back to your spuds, your Irish spuds and milk and your dairy,
Like even like that with spuds, in terms of one of the really interesting things in terms of how we used to cook potatoes was we often used to cook it almost all the way through. but leave it partially hard in the center. So the outside will be fluffy and the inside will be partially hard. So when you had your potato, the fluffy part gave you kind of an instant energy boost, and then later on in the day, the starch resistance, which we're now looking at really to encourage people to cook potatoes, let them go cold, and then going cold, the quality of the starch changes.
I've never heard this before.
Oh, well, what happens, it's amazing, because what happens is it moves to a different part. It's not broken down in the stomach, it moves to the intestines.
Okay.
And the intestines see it as a kind of a foreign body, and they release all of this chemistry that also breaks down cancerous cells in the colon and stuff. So this resistant starch is amazing. Now, it's specifically with potatoes, but we done it because it gave us a second burst of energy in a second release, because it didn't digest straight away. So
you cook your potatoes, I'm just going
it was called,
3/4 or whatever.
Yeah, it was called cooking with the moon in it. So the moon was the hard
these
center.
I think are you sure these weren't those, like, you know, when your potatoes aren't very good, probably in the famine, and, you know, they don't cook properly, they're always hard.
It's a similar type thing. It's that there was a small bit, now it's not a raw potato, it's a small bit of crunchiness. So you would boil your potatoes up, you would turn off the heat, you would leave them there. And again, this would have persisted probably up until the 1940s to 1950s, and then, you know, with mash get smash and stuff coming in, people moved over into different types of convenience foods. But that's what it does. It's the resistant starch, you know. I
bet you didn't expect now for a marathon you need to be eating raw potatoes. I'm only raw potatoes.
But it's that.
I know. I'm only having a bit of fun.
So it's that thing that, you know, the balanced meal before. Make sure there's protein in there after protein. But what I would say is, eat a plate of purple. So this
purple.
Is purple. This is a really key, significant thing, because all purple foods contain beta-cyanin. It's the pigments that makes them that color. So whether it's blueberries or
eat purple blueberries.
Or beetroot.
It's
fantastic. So what that does is that improves muscle recovery after strenuous exercise by 50 to 75%. So a plate of purple after she's run the marathon means she won't be achy as much the next day in work.
It's extraordinary. Actually, there's quite a lot, isn't there, eating by colour as well, but that's another topic for another day maybe. Vivian Foley wants to know, what would be the top 3 things that are growable in our gardens in the Irish climate that would help common ailments? So medicinal question again, really.
Okay, well, start with A, apples. Apples a day keeps the doctor away. And the reason it does is because apples have a high content of vitamin C. Vitamin C drives your immune system. They have ellagic acid in there, which again improves immune function right away through the body, from your macrophages, which are these I guess it's the structure of how your immune system comes and breaks down the bacteria. It speeds them up. And then also pectin. Apples, if you eat a whole apple, the soluble and insoluble fibre that's contained within there actually cleanses your system. It gathers kind of toxic elements and removes it from your system.
The pectin is what you have in your apple jelly, is the stuff that makes it set. So
So the pectin is generally in the layer of the skin, but then it's also that the flesh of the apple as well contains this insoluble and soluble fibres, and it's both of them that do it. Insoluble fibres in particular boost your immune system, and the soluble fibres as well, they feed the gut bacteria. And your gut really, I mean, they call your gut your second brain. Your gut is your immune system. Up until the age of about 13 or 14, your immune system comes from your thymus. Your thymus builds all of these T cells and NK cells and various different immune systems, cells that go target viral and bacterial infections. And then after 13, your thymus begins to shrink, and you have all of these in your system, and then your gut takes over, telling your body where to send particular agents.
And is your thymus in a particular place in your body? I don't know the thymus.
It's roughly where the heart is. Okay. You know, and it's connected, and I see you have thyme at the front. What's really, really interesting about thyme is which would be the next plant. The next plant I would grow thyme, because thyme has a property in it called thymol, and thymol is about 75% more effective the most over-the-counter antiseptics. So if you get a cut of a thorn in your garden and you rub a little bit of thyme into it, that's the same as dashing in and getting Dettol or TCP or something else and putting it on. And it's much more effective.
And how would you put that on?
Just rub it on.
Just rub it on. Just rub thyme on.
But it's so effective that they're using thymol to clean medical instruments. They're using thymol to try and track down MRSA, you know, because again, some of the bacterial stuff that's there, even for us in terms of if you look at antibiotics in the food chain and you know in other places, they still can't. The antibiotics can evolve to deal with the medicine that's targeting them, but they still haven't found out a mechanism to undo how thyme breaks them down, or how elderberries break them down, or how honey breaks them down. So, say for example, the elderberries, the one in the middle, which is another one if you can grow. Elderberries, when every virus has kind of hooks that grip into the cell wall, and then it starts to proliferate, right? And the reason why it's so hard to get rid of many of them, even when you take a course of antibiotics, is because they're bunkered in, they're held on, and then they release and come out into the bloodstream. If we can get them out into the bloodstream early, our macrophages will come and gobble them all up. And elderberries have this compound within them, SNGs they're called, that breaks off the hook grip, so that they're left just as globules floating in the bloodstream, and then our immune cells can just come in like sharks and just gobble them all up and pick them off. So I'd grow with apples, I'd go with thyme, I'd go with elderberries if you can, and then the brassicas for this time of the year where all of the sulforaphanes and that boost their immune systems.
And actually, there's this new cough medicine that you see everywhere now. That's thyme-based, isn't it?
It's thyme-based. Well, what thyme does, apart from the fact that it's antiseptic, antifungal, antiviral, thyme also stimulates white blood cells. So your white blood cells are your immune system. So even like that, thyme in a soup or a stew or a coddle, or even thyme sprinkled on a sandwich.
Chicken soup with thyme, you're totally sorted.
You're totally sorted. I mean, even like chicken soup. I know I'm vegetarian, but like there's a reason why chicken soup has been used in lots of traditional cultures, going back thousands of years as a treatment. It's the same as the broth soups, you know, and they all have an impact on moving the lymph. And the lymph is really what detoxes all of our body, you know. So I know my article is about the psychology of soup and what benefit, but it's also the physical things that happen with a nutrient dense thing, but it's also what nutrients are actually in the particular types of soup, so it have a big impact too.
Extraordinary, and I suppose, you know, another conversation we're having is just at how much medicine actually does it comes from
your food.
From your food, like, you know, it's the little bit actually, and you were talking earlier about how when it does do that though, but because it's been isolated, often there's lots of bits that obviously it deals with that job, but it doesn't do actually half as much as it would if you had the
whole thing.
The whole thing, exactly.
So say for the classic example would be something like aspirin. So if you take aspirin, it's acetyl salicylic acid. And when you take that, okay, it thins your blood and it switches off neuroreceptor P, which is the pain receptor. For lots of people who are on that, it can thin the lining of the stomach. So you can get ulcers and you can get kind of digestive complications down the line. But salicylic acid is in meadowsweet tea and it's in willow bark. And for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before we got aspirin in the foil pack, that's what we took. And that in that format, because it's in a herbal format, it has all other types of nutrients and phytochemicals, including phenolic acids and various other compounds that actually strengthen the lining of the stomach. So by taking the herb, you're also taking the cure for the side effect that may come from one particular part of the herb. It's
amazing. We're not telling everyone out there to like stop taking their aspirin, but definitely, I mean, it's worth experimenting with little things and seeing and get checked afterwards and if it's working, it's working.
It's never go off your meds, and probably if you trace it back, your meds may originally have come from a plant source in the first
probably
place.
Did, so
you're just supplementing it sometimes, you know.
Next question. I can't pronounce this lady's surname. I'll try just so she knows who she is. Mora Ni Flan. You've got an Irish name. Flanchida. Asks, which vegetables are carbohydrate or starch heavy? Which vegetables are carbohydrate or starch heavy and should only be eaten in moderation? She has this is very important. She has a wedding to go to in the summer and needs to shed a stone to fit into her dress.
Okay, well...
Enjoy the wedding.
Well, the interesting thing there is the ones that are starch heavy are root vegetables. And the ones that are often kind of protein enriched. Now the leafy vegetables can have starch in them as well, but leafy vegetables tend to have a higher quantity of protein as well. And then pulses, you know, like your legumes, your peas, your beans, they're very protein heavy. The thing with going off starch, I know everybody thinks like starch and glucose and gluten are all the kind of baddies. They're not necessarily the baddies. So something like potatoes, for example, again, going back to something that we've been using for a couple of 100 years. Potato has a high satiety rating, which means basically when you eat it, you feel like you've had something to eat and you feel fuller for longer. So sometimes a plate of potatoes is actually better than you trying to not eat a lot of food.
And then munching something on your
break.
break.
Munching something bad. You know, just go, oh, I need a bar of chocolate. Or but just in terms of trying to shed weight, very often when you go on a diet, your body goes into starvation mode, and what happens is it starts to grab onto every single calorie that you eat. So again, that's why week 1 you lose a lot of weight, week 2 less, week 3 less, week 4, and then week 6 you kind of balloon back up again. It's because it's grabbing everything. One of the fundamental tricks to switching that part of your system off is green tea. So green tea fuels your metabolism, but it switches off that grab calorie reflex that we would normally have. So I'd go on now. Don't go on the green tea tablets with all of the caffeine in it, and you get shakes. Real green tea.
Out to the garden.
Tea, you know, and even like there's lots of stuff that you can use. It doesn't always have to be a cup of tea. So, you know, if you look at kind of some of the Japanese cuisines, they have everything from green tea, kind of sorbets and stuff, through to kind of dustins that they put mixing in with kind of sushi and that sort of stuff. And, you know, if she's eating more fish and more oils and more omegas, that also drives the body to metabolize the other foods that are coming in more effectively, you know.
Very good. No, interesting actually, because I'm just thinking about teas, because I suppose I divide green teas into 2 sections. I kind of go outside and I pick a bit of mint or a bit of something like that, and that's sort of one green tea, and the other is mint tea that is probably Asian that comes green tea is it a form of tea? What is it?
Well, the green tea, that would be herbal tea. But the green tea that I'm talking about is green, proper green tea. Now, green tea, like, you know, your normal cup of tea. If we can say the word normal cup of tea.
Barry's
but you're not, Barry's or
lions.
Lions. So that comes from a plant called Camellia sinensis, and that's the tea plant. And the reason why it's black in colour or red in colour is because it's dried in a particular way. And when it's dried, that changes the antioxidant and the catechin content of it, so it comes that way. Green tea generally is either steamed straight away so that the leaf preserves its green colour, or it's dried slowly in the sun so that the leaf, it's not cooked in an oven like the black tea. So it's the same plant.
And of course it contains caffeine as well, doesn't it? Green tea. So
that's part. That's what I'm saying. Don't go out and get the tablets with extra caffeine in them, because you'll just be kind of a bit hyper. But the green tea, it's the same plant. It's just done in a different.
I never thought about where as you say, proper green tea comes from.
Because the green leaf is still
as opposed to herbal tea. Very good. I hope that answers your question there. Julie Jones loves growing her own herbs for flavouring and cooking. But what herbs add flavour and also have health benefits?
Pretty much all of them. I mean, the main reason why we actually cook with herbs is there's a really, really interesting story. When the Visigoths attacked Rome.
Right.
Now we're going way back, you know. So when the Visigoths attacked Rome, in order to take the siege off, they said, give us a cart of gold and a cart of black pepper.
Right.
So black pepper was worth its weight in gold back then. And the reason why black pepper was worth its weight in gold was because we didn't have refrigeration, we didn't have tin foods, we didn't have the hygiene levels we have now. So food could go ropey very, very quickly, and you get a lot of gastrointestinal complications. The piperine in black pepper kills off any negative bacteria that may form in your stomach. So black pepper was very, very expensive. So we start looking for other types of foods that may contain ingredients that would also kill off bad bacteria. So if you think of something like chives, which we love for its oniony texture, chives are packed full of sulfur. Sulfur kills off, it has the right pH to kill off negative bacteria. So we're talking in minimal amounts, stuff like E. coli and that sort of stuff. So most of the herbs that are there, so you even hear that we have sage. Sage came in, I mean, there's an old Italian phrase, which is sell your coat, buy sage. and it's that sage. Salvia is the botanical name of sage, which salvia to save. And that's what it does. So pretty much any herb that you would think of on your spice rack has some level of medicinal
value. So if we even take, like, we talked about thyme and rosemary, and
then rosemary is fantastic. Rosemary has rosmaric acid contained within it. That does a lot for boosting the immune system, and it's really good for breaking down. If you're cooking lamb, and traditionally when lamb is cooked with rosemary, is because rosemary helps your body process the fats, the meat fats, more effectively. So that got added into the culinary canon because of its ability to help break down fat. So like every herb it came in as a way of us being able to process our foods and live longer in the days before refrigeration. So they all have a health benefit.
It's extraordinary, and I suppose that old sort of medicinal Chinese medicine, if you want to call it, I mean, like old, just inherent. It's just extraordinary what they ate actually has been proven to make sense now. It's amazing. Very good. Amy McGrath wants to know, what are the best vegetables to grow if you're growing them in a small space, e.g. an urban garden?
What you eat. Again, it's back to that. I'm afraid it's back to that. It's the 5 a day or the 7 a day or the 21 a day, whatever it is you enjoy, that's what to grow. You know, like, again, there are some plants that you say take something like asparagus. Asparagus is going to probably take about 3 years before you get a harvest of it. So is it worthwhile giving over the 1 square foot patch to that? But then again, we can introduce pallets and we can create vertical gardens and you can have all of your kind of Mediterranean type herbs grown in a pallet because it doesn't need to be watered that often, which means then you can put all of your nutritious veg and your root crops in the soil or in raised beds. So, you know, there's nothing that's kind of off bounds for growing in an urban garden. It's just how long are you prepared to wait for a harvest. And the reason why we grew so many potatoes here was because we were only allocated a small patch of land to be able to grow crops.
And it was the most...
Well, 1 potato gives you 30 potatoes at the end of the harvest. So 1 cabbage gives you 1 cabbage.
And one potato fills you up. 1 decent sized potato fills you up.
So culturally, that's where it came in, because we were trying to pay the landlord or whoever at the time with the other crops that we could grow, but we kept the potatoes for ourselves. So there's plenty of stuff out there that would be high yielding.
I was going to say that because the high yielding, because I always say, people ask me about growing stuff at home, I always grow greens, your lettuce, and cut and come again, that you can chop off a bit, and then it keeps coming back. And then the other one that works really well is tomatoes, because they're just so delicious. I mean, and they're so easy to grow. And they're kind of always the mainstays that I...
And even like that with tomatoes, it doesn't always have to be the ones that are grown up in cordons. It can be
the ones that are fallen over, they'll have little cherries and so I don't know how we're doing against Theresa May at the moment, but I'm getting thumbs up. There's lots of questions coming in. So I've got 3 questions here, but actually I'm going to divide them into 2. So the first one is Louise Callanan McEwen asked what foods, and we're going for over half an hour at this stage, we're flying. Asked what foods are best for cancer patients. Very serious, I suppose. And I suppose we have to be really careful here. Just all the talk that's out there. I mean, we actually had someone to come talk about cancer at a wellness fair in Ballymaloe that my wife was running, and they were nearly scared about talking about alternative ways of solving cancer, because obviously modern medicine works, but I think, you know, sometimes, you know, it's great to help with something anyway. Actually, that was It's a Bagel, Peaches and Dominique Kemp's book, which you've probably seen. So anyway, sorry, Louise Callan McEwen asked what foods are best for cancer patients to rebuild and strengthen their immune system post chemotherapy. So that's actually that's a good point.
Because for cancer treatment, the best currently available cancer treatment is either your chemo or your radiation. There are phytochemicals within plants that do destroy cancerous cells, like they're a natural chemo, but they wouldn't do them as fast enough as you need to. But in terms of post-chemo, again, what you're looking at is, and I've mentioned some of them already, your brassicas, your kale, cabbages, cauliflower, broccoli in particular. There's broccoli is amazing in how it helps shrink tumours, but broccoli is also amazing in post-chemo treatment in terms of the sulforaphanes, and there's a thing called indole-3 carbinol, which is very beneficial to anybody who has an estrogen-related cancer because it brings it down and it helps prevent the rise of it coming again. very often with cancer treatments is that if there is a secondary cancer down the line post chemo, it's often it's not the same cancer back, it's a different type of cancer.
Okay.
It's a cancer that comes through with the chemo. So that's why people are always very anxious to boost their immune system right so that they don't get a secondary cancer down the line. So the brassicas with the sulforaphanes do that. Vitamin D is key. Vitamin D is anti-carcinogenic. It's one of the natural agents in our body. And if you look at the Irish diet, we're very poor in vitamin D. We don't eat a lot of fish. We don't eat a lot of wild or brown mushrooms. We really only get it in our kind of fortified milk or our cereal, and that's only one meal a day. Even that.
Just to say that we were actually, this came up earlier, we were just having a bit of dinner before here, and like, I was saying, like, how come the Irish don't eat fish? And then you were saying about mushrooms. So it's really interesting that in Ireland we're not eating our native ingredients.
And there's two cultural things. I mean, in terms of the fish, when Christianity came into Ireland, they seen fish as a penance food. We were told just to eat it on a Friday. So that kind of limited it to one day. Now that's all gone now, and people are back starting to eat fish.
Tradition,
but traditionally, people just thought, you just have fish on a Friday, even if they forgot the religious kind of context behind it. And then with the wild mushrooms, post-famine, it seemed unseemly to be foraging in a ditch. And people didn't want to do that. I mean, we gave up the Irish language in a way to be able to go into certain places, to be able to be fed, or to go to America, and your name was changed in America because
faraway hills are greener as well.
So what's really, really interesting in all of that is that if you eat within season, if you eat foods that have been a part of your, let's say, civilization or culture for a long, long time, then you're arming yourselves against that, because the diet that we have naturally available in Ireland suits Irish people in a way to adapt to that particular climate, where the Mediterranean diet is great for us, but it's even better for the people of the Mediterranean. Do you know? Or the Inuit diet in terms of the high fats and the lots of food. That's really good for that community because it insulates them and keeps them warm and keeps cognitive stuff going, where in colder temperatures that can suffer. So the vitamin D is key, and the sulforaphanes and the brassicas are really key. And then there's lots of other stuff you can look at, but in terms of foods, that's what I'd be going for.
Actually, just after we had this conversation, I met Darina coming out. She was just going into dinner in Ballymaloe, and she's recently come back from a talk by Weston A. Price. Look him up, I don't know much about him. But she was saying he was a dentist, and travelled all over the world looking at people's teeth, and basically discovered in certain parts of the world, in most parts of the world where people were eating traditional diets, they didn't have any problems with their teeth. So it was like, and so she was like, it's actually, it's traditional foods, traditional to wherever you're from.
And even in terms terms of cancers, if you look at stuff like the Okinawa diet and like the Japanese diet, because there's a lot of soy and a lot of fish in the Japanese diet, that's high in the proper type of estrogen. So a decent amount of estrogen is very good to suppress male cancers from forming, but it's also very good because these are not fake estrogen. So there's a lot of stuff about parabens in beauty products and that sort of stuff that can mimic estrogen and cause lots of defects within the body. But the fish diet and the tofu and the soy diet meant that cancer really wasn't an issue in Japan. And when did it start? In the 50s. So it started after World War II when they started to adopt the Western diet. And you see that in indigenous cultures all around the world. The minute the fast food stuff goes in, more sugar in their diet.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on it, but it just seems, but there's definitely a correlation.
There's a correlation.
Yeah. So just two more questions which I'm asking you to put together. Maria Gaspa asks is there any suggestion for someone that is studying and working to support and help to cope with stress? So that's about stress. And the other one is Leo Wenny asks, is there something in particular we can plant to improve general mental health and overall mood, especially during winter? So mood and stress, and as you know, Fiann, I actually contacted you first day because I wanted to go these herbs and try and not cheer up the office, because we've got a very cheerful office, but just kind of get a good vibe going around the place.
Yeah, well, so mood, rosemary on the front there. Rosemary, they've done a recent survey where they pumped rosemary into students who were studying, and they found that it improved their recall by about 50 to 60%. So the smell of rosemary actually has an impact on opening up all of the files in the brain and helping you upload what you've learned off. Eating rosemary, the rosmaric acid does the same thing. In terms of kind of general positive well-being, really, really interesting thing, which is when we were talking before about getting houseplants around the place. Houseplants and any particular plant has the opposite to static electricity. So its polarity is different, right? So basically,
this is fascinating now. Yeah.
So our immune system, like the more we're walking around in kind of synthetic fabrics and touching off kind of Formica counters or sitting in plastic chairs, we're building up more and more static electricity in our body. So if you're the sort of person you walk into the supermarket and you touch the trolley and you get a shock, that means your immune system is not working, right? So basically what's happening there is how do you get rid of the static electricity out of your body? The houseplants that are in a room change the kind of EMF field. And I often recommend it for people who have asthma or their children have asthma, because you'll see, you know, when you open up the curtains and you see all the dust particles, the minute you put houseplants into that space, when you open up the curtains, you don't see the dust particles, they're all on the floor. You'll notice, people often say, oh, I don't like houseplants because it makes the house very dusty. No, it's taking them out of the air and it's improving your breathable air quality. But being around the houseplants, because they lower the static electricity for roughly a metre beyond where they extend, they're helping. So if it's near your computer, you're not getting as stressed, you're not panicking as much, your immune system is working more effectively. There's a movement called Shinrin Yoko, which is Japanese for forest bathing. And that's where you go and you take a walk through a forest. And in walking through the forest, again, because you're around plants that have the opposite polarity, that pulls all of the static electricity out of your body and gives you an immune boost. Forest trees, depending on which type they are, like pine is a natural antidepressant, so pine will pick up the mood. So
that's why they have them in northern countries to keep. Maybe that's what keeps them sane.
And it's also because they drink the tea, so the pine tea is very high in vitamin C, right? So depending on the type of forest you walk through, some of them release terpenes, which are very much connected in with aromatherapy oils and even with stuff like CBD. So when we inhale them into the system or they make contact with our skin, they're anti-inflammatory, they're pain relieving, so that all contributes to a feeling of better wellness. But the best thing I do, if I can leave it on this type of note, is go hug a tree.
Beautiful.
You know, literally go hug a tree and let it take it out. The other thing you can do is you can stand barefoot on your lawn. For 5 to 10 minutes, because when you're barefoot you get completely grounded. The polarity of the air pulls it all out. And then what happens is you have a flood of this thing called catalase, which is a potent antioxidant that we only make when we're at zero. So by you getting to zero, that's the only time you'll ever get it in your day or in your life, you know? So by standing barefoot on the lawn, do a bit of Tai Chi, do a bit of yoga, wave at the neighbours, call the police.
Well, if you take like little boys, you know the little boys never put on their shoes, they hate doing, they're always running to the lawn, they're always really happy. So maybe that's the secret to happiness.
That's the secret, because you know, you think you go away on a holiday and you're walking hand in hand with your special loved one on the beach. It's not that other version. It's not the 20 sangrias, you know, it's the polarity has left your body and you're feeling good, you know.
It's all about not having your shoes on,
Never propose barefoot.
Do we have any questions from the audience? I'm hearing it's loads. So how many will we do? We'll do 2 or 3, and then actually what we're going to do is I did tell you about it. We're going to do a blind tasting, which will be a bit of fun. We do this at the end of each one. So Gillian's organised. She organises everything here in the background. So she organises us to basically have blindfolds on, and we'll taste 3 things. I don't know what they are, obviously, and see who wins. I think, was it a draw last time? How can it be a draw when there was 3? I can't remember. Anyway, I remember. So, sorry, my eyesight isn't so great. I've got a question here now. Kaylee asked, anything you can recommend for headaches?
Metasweet.
Metasweet?
Headaches,
I'm just going living on Metasweet when I'm finished here with you.
Yeah, well, see, it depends on the type of headache. So if it's something like, if it's a headache that's a cluster headache, that's very often a posture-related thing. So if she's
cluster headache is what?
Cluster headache is where you get several headaches in a short burst over 15 minutes, or you get longer-term headaches over the space of a week, as opposed to a migraine, which is often a single event
and really in the front,
and really intense. So the cluster headaches are a whole group. That's often a postural thing, where what's happened is the occiput at the back is causing stress on your muscles. So the best thing for that type of headache is literally self-massage, your skull, and once it loosens up the muscles at the back, it'll dissipate.
Nothing to do with herbs.
no, but that's just a great tip. Right? So if it's something like a migraine, migraine is got to do with constriction of blood vessels. And what happens there is that the blood goes out of the brain, And then when it opens back up and flushes in, that's when you get the intensity of the pain. So the best way to keep it evenly dilated is to sip caffeine. So either caffeine. So either sip coffee or sip some cola, and that'll keep it generally open throughout the day. Right now, there are people whose migraine is triggered by caffeine, or is triggered by wine, or is triggered by chocolate. But what the trigger mechanism is that it makes it seize down and then it opens back up again. But it's like immunology, or it's like what's the one where they give you the bee sting for the bee sting, homeopathy. It's that sort of thing that you're fighting fire with fire. So by you taking this tiny amount, small amounts, like it's not even an espresso, just a normal cup of coffee, and just sip it through the day, that keeps it open. If it's a stress headache, or if it's something got to do with a hormonal headache, if it's something that's connected in with period pains, or it's something got to do with exam stress, then I would say take something like evening primrose oil, because evening primrose oil is a hormonal balancer, so that takes away the trigger mechanism. And in terms of stress, it's brilliant at bringing down the inflammatory mechanisms that are often stored up by stress.
Stress is a really interesting one. It's a whole thing. Lee asked, do you recommend any teas?
Loads.
Every tea.
So it depends on what you're looking for. So
actually, because we talked a little bit about green tea versus herbal tea versus black tea. So maybe even, dividing it up that way.
So black tea and green tea have catechins contained within them, and the catechins are a chemical compound that's very good at detangling the axons in the brain. So they're now studying to see the effect of both of those teas on dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. And they're having great success with it. Right? So that's at the extreme end of medicinal botany, where at one point they will find that compound and it'll be synthesized down into something. Green tea is amazing for asthmatics because it has the same theophylline that's in green tea is the same compound that's in the inhalers. So
Your
inhalers is having more cups of green tea during the day. When you get into herbs, you're trying to look at, well, what's the constituent in the herb that's going to treat any particular condition. So say something like chamomile tea. Chamomile tea calms you down because there's a xulene in it, and the xulene is leached into the tea. That goes in and affects the GABA receptors of the brain, which actually calm you down. They change the signal forwarding mechanism, so you're less stressed. So it's a natural setup. It's a great one to get to sleep at night. A really potent one to get to sleep at night is something like valerian root tea. Now, the only problem with valerian root tea is it smells like gone off socks. It's a tough one to take, right? But it does knock you out. If you're looking at something like the mint teas again were brought in because mint came into the culinary canon because it was antifungal and antibacterial. So they're often used to get rid of stuff like candida or bloating, or we're coming up to Christmas time. There's going to be lots of indulgences. The mint tea is the handy one to keep your stomach going. Peppermint tea peps you up. That's the best way to take it. So peppermint tea is a nice kind of stimulant. But sometimes the mint teas, if you have acid reflux or GERD, the mint teas can lessen the esophageal valve, which means you can get more acid up. So this is the thing that you need to be very careful in how you're self-diagnosing with some of the herbal treatments, because what you think might be doing good might actually be having another effect somewhere else on the part of the body. Like licorice tea. Licorice tea, again, is high estrogen. If you're a male and you're dealing with a benign prostate or a swollen prostate, licorice tea is brilliant. If you're female and you're dealing with high estrogen dominance, that's just going to cause a flare-up of your condition. So because teas don't really have the ingredient on the side of the box, you're going to have to go buy yourself a nice little
Are you writing a book on teas?
That sounds like a setup now.
It does. I was asking Merle what he was up to, and he goes, I'm writing a book. It just occurred to me now as you were saying.
I was thinking in the middle of the car,
go buy the book.
But I'm working on a book called A Quick Cup of Herbal.
I hope I didn't break. I probably wasn't meant to say anything about it. The publishers will kill me.
It'll probably be out Easter time next year, and that's all about herbal.
And actually, and teas, just because what we've talked about a lot here is taking teas with something. Sorry, not necessarily teas, but herbs or anything with something else. So, like, is like if I'm taking tea, we were talking about citrus earlier on, like, you know what I mean, but I don't know, whatever might be.
Teas are a great way of supplementing your vitamin C or your iron or your B vitamins as well. It's not always the kind of the medicinal phytochemistry, it's the nutritional value that's actually in teas that can be beneficial. But again, there's so many herbs out there that can actually conflict with the
Yeah.
meds you're on, and that's why I'm writing the book. It's that you actually look up the contraindications.
That's a book of a question,
and
isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, just one that isn't, I suppose, isn't a tea, but it's become very trendy is turmeric or turmeric for medicinal benefit. What's your...
Oh, I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's brilliant in a curry. It's great in a soup. It's, it's
but as a drink
really
as well now,
people. As a drink now, there's a thing called golden milk, which has been around for about 5,000 years.
Right.
And it's in Ayurvedic medicine, and it's basically turmeric in milk.
Yeah.
Full fat milk. Now, traditionally, they would put in a clarified butter, but we're going back to the time when they didn't have fats.
We're in India now as here as well, are we? Yeah, so ghee or whatever it's called.
Ghee, exactly. So I would say you can just make it with milk, but if you add in a pinch of black pepper, piperine and black pepper helps you absorb the curcumin is the content in turmeric that is anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and immune booster. And I mean, all of the research is out there. This is not, nobody's making it up off the top of their head, but it's being used in traditional healing treatments in the places where it grows. So from what originally was Persia right the way over to Tibet, it's being used for all of those different treatments. So I think it's a fantastic thing, and that's really interesting that you can nip into your kitchen and you can literally take a spice off a shelf and add it into what you're cooking, and you're getting the medicinal dose. That's
the medicinal dose, I suppose. Absolutely. I think we'll call that a day for questions, will we? We've been going on for a half an hour, twice as long as we should be. Are we going to announce who's going to win the Fitbit on the webpage? Maybe I don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll somehow let someone know. Someone's going to win another Fitbit anyway. And do you know what? We'll sit down in the office and we'll come up with our favourite question, our favourite answer, and we'll also let you know who's won the Holistic Gardener book as well. And I'm afraid you're going to have to buy your book on teas. And just the cancer question, actually back to that one is Dominique Kemp has a very interesting book on foods to eat. With cancer, I think she said sugar was the real danger as well.
Sugar's
with cancer.
a baddie, and what I would recommend for people is to start again. Where we're talking about colours, is orange foods, because orange foods have beta carotene, and the beta carotene is a precursor of vitamin A. Vitamin A is really key to the immune system, but vitamin A is really important for DNA recovery. So for post-cancer treatment, that's another one. That's
beetroot is what I've heard as well.
And then the beetroot again, because that builds up your stamina. So really, after chemo and after radiation treatment, you feel so down because it has blitzed everything in your body. So that's why you need to kind of rebuild, and that's where nutrition really plays a bigger role, even than I would say positive mental attitude.
And that is very important as well.
I'm a firm believer in that.
I think we're doing a blind tasting now. So I think there's a you can grab there behind you. We have to trust each other now that we're not going to.
I'm glad I got the manly one.
Thanks, Jill. Mine smells lovely. Okay, so I think we're going to be handed here. Geez, I can't even tie this bow. I wonder how Theresa May is getting on. Okay.
Mum, please pay the ransom.
So I think we're going to be handed a bowl, are we, with something in it, and we're going to be told when we're allowed to touch it. Okay, I've got it here. Who's going to? Okay. Okay. Oh, is it a nettle? Carrot stalk. No, fennel. Dill.
Parsley.
Not fennel or dill. Oh, tarragon. What?
Is it a herb?
It's not fennel or dill or tarragon. Is it the top of a vegetable? Carrot? Kale? No. That begins with K. Begins with K, C and ends with L. No one wins that. What is it? Oh, Jane, chervil. Chervil is very similar to those. I use that as an alternative.
You're in the right family.
So we count to 3 again. You can take this. 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, it's gooey. Pickled ginger.
Yeah.
I got a bonus. I had sushi for dinner last night.
Last pot.
Oh, sorry, I'm not allowed to touch it.
1, 2, 3.
Apple.
I didn't even get it in my mouth. Is it apple?
No.
It's a pear.
It's a pear.
I think I win, do I? Well done. Off with your blindfold. Well done, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fiann. Really fascinating. We ran a full half an hour over time.
I'm just so glad that there was no part of the kangaroo. Sacrifice for that.
Fascinating guy. Thank you guys for watching. Read your article in the Irish Examiner. It's not the Cork Examiner, even though everyone in Cork still calls it that. And what do you call yourself there? Are you the holistic gardener for that,
No,
or are you?
I'm just Fiann O Nuailainn.
You're just Fiann O Nuailainn.
Yeah.
Don't try and pronounce the word O Nuailainn if you're looking at it. It's much easier if you just
say it.
yeah. Thanks a million. Good night. Happy Christmas.